I would like to pass the microphone over to Ambassador Marc.
Thanks, it's great to have you all here. Our corporate friends, also our journalists, and also members of the embassy team. Tonight is primarily about reaching out to the media, and we want to acknowledge the media. It's an absolutely critical component of any democratic society, including to uphold the principles of freedom of speech. And in the current environment, having freedom of speech and an active and vibrant media is more important than ever, particularly given the advent of AI and the blizzard of disinformation that we're confronted with on an almost daily basis. So quality and accurate journalism is more important than ever. So tonight we also think we wanted to connect with you in person rather than via a text message or some other medium, because personal connection is also an underrated attribute, and we want to some things are old-fashioned, but some things are very important, and we wanted to personally connect with you to tell our story. And we have connected, it seems. So we want to connect with you, we want to tell our story, we want to tell the story of the relationship between Australia and the Philippines and how we're working hard to promote that relationship and to make it grow across all areas of the embassy's engagement. So as I told senior government leaders here, including the President when I arrived, Australia sees the Philippines as an increasingly important strategic partner. I also said we are committed to expanding our cooperation as we meet shared geostrategic and geo-economic challenges. So we're developing cooperation in 4 key areas: trade and investment, defence and security, civil maritime cooperation, and our development program. And as Joe said, we'll have leaders of those teams speaking to you in a minute, but I'm going to make a few overarching comments. So on trade and investment, 2 years ago, the Australian government wrote a strategy on promoting economic engagement with the region. It was called Invested, and the period of time was out to 2040. And the key objective of that is to increase trade and investment with the region, and that includes the Philippines. I was fortunate enough to be the lead author of that, and here in the Philippines, that is one of my key personal objectives, is to try and grow that relationship. And in doing so, I've been meeting your key companies and also key economic officials. And I would note that as part of this strategy, as a new sort of element, I suppose, we really focus on trying to promote outwards investment into the region. Usually countries promote inwards investment and promote exports outwards, but we're doing something a bit unique, and we're doing that because we see it's beneficial for the region and beneficial for us. As part of this work, we've established deal teams across the region, including here in Manila. And the idea of these deal teams is for us to develop a list of investable projects that we showcase to Australian companies in particular sectors. And so we've been working very, very hard on that. More broadly, as part of our economic work here, we're sort of focusing on a number of key sectors, and these include agriculture and food, resources and mining, education and infrastructure. But we're not strictly limited to that. So we've had some successes, and there's been quite a bit of progress on the economic front recently. For instance, just recently I was at the Palace for a signing ceremony presided over by President Marcos, where 4 of the 8 service contracts for oil and gas exploration were given to Australian investment. So that was wonderful. Another great example just recently, and there's a couple of people here from Anco tonight, I was at Anco opening their 5th store here, and that is a major success story. Also, just last night I was privileged to be in Cebu to welcome Jetstar's first flight from Brisbane to Cebu, and that's the first direct flight by an Australian airline to a destination outside Manila, so that's another wonderful thing. And I was talking to the head of their operations, and he said that they're putting on, well, they've just started also a flight from Perth to Manila a few weeks ago. And so with both of those new routes, next year there'll be 100,000 new seats bringing people to the Philippines. So that is tremendous commitment, I think, to the Philippines economy. On other areas that we're focusing on, key areas, defence. We've long had a defence cooperation program, but the relationship in that area has expanded very significantly. This year we had Exercise Alon with the Philippines. It's a bilateral exercise, and it was our largest exercise this year outside Australia. And our two defence ministers agreed during that exercise that we're going to develop a new defence cooperation agreement in the next 12 months. On civil maritime issues, Australia's really ramped up our support, particularly for the Philippines Coast Guard. We've doubled our bilateral assistance program to 18 million over the next 4 years. And the Philippines is also a major recipient of our $64 million regional maritime program. So as part of that, we're delivering training, we're delivering scholarships and cutting-edge technology such as drones to assist with maritime domain awareness. And another key area on the training, we've now trained over 800 Philippine officials on law of the sea issues, which is another wonderful contribution in my opinion. And of course, we've been a strong supporter of the Philippines in the face of the aggression that they've faced in the West Philippine Sea, and we say so publicly. On our aid program, it's one of our very largest anywhere, and now that is at $94 million a year. It's focused on education, the justice sector, climate and sustainable agriculture, and improved economic governance. So that's a major thing we're doing. In fact, with aid and also other assistance, the amount of money that Australia is providing to support the Philippines every year is now over $100 million. So it's a pretty substantial investment. And finally, I just mentioned we have a very long-standing and major law enforcement partnership with the Philippines via our police services. As our Prime Minister and Foreign Minister have said, the security and prosperity of Southeast Asia is central to the security and prosperity of Australia. We want a peaceful, stable and prosperous region, and engagement with the Philippines is very much designed to further that objective. Next year we have a major milestone. It's the 80th anniversary of bilateral relations, diplomatic relations, we would call it that, with the Philippines. And that also coincides with the Philippines hosting ASEAN, and Australia's long had a strong relationship with ASEAN. We're actually the oldest dialogue partner of ASEAN, so we'll have, while we're not a member of ASEAN, we'll have a pretty significant engagement with ASEAN around the fringes of that. And we've also, in terms of ASEAN, we've also again made clear to the Philippines government that we're willing to assist them with their priorities as chair. So I've been here now for 4 months, and look, I've been, frankly, one of the things I tell people, I've really been struck by in almost every engagement, by the positivity there is about the work Australia's been doing here, particularly in recent years, but over a long time. On a personal note also, coincidentally, I arrived on the night of the President's Sona address, and so it's been quite an interesting and eventful few months since then. But I know I'm going to get asked about this, but I'll be clear about it. Australia, and I think Australian business is invested here for the long term, and that economic strategy I mentioned has a time frame out to 2040. So we're not sort of focusing on just on today. We have a very long-term horizon. So in my work and also a bit of personal travel, I've seen some of the areas of your lovely country. I've been to Palawan, to Clark, to Subic, to Batangas, to Bataan, Surigao del Norte, Dinagat Islands, Cebu, and just last week Cotabato. And it's a wonderful country, and I really feel very privileged to be the ambassador here. So in closing, to our media partners, we deeply value your courage and professionalism in reporting on events in this country. We know over recent years it's been, a few years ago it was very challenging here, but we admire your professionalism and your determination. Your work is indispensable, and we also think you have a key role in illuminating the great work that is going on between our two countries. So we look forward to working with you, particularly as we celebrate the 80th anniversary of our diplomatic relations next year and beyond. Thank you.